Hi everyone, this is Dr. Hopkins, and this is our first video in the first semester of General Chemistry. And we're going to do a basic introduction and talk about units and measurements and how they impact chemistry. Kind of background information, things you should have learned already. Alright, so let's define chemistry, and basically it's the study of matter, its interactions and transformations. It's pretty simple. Sometimes people refer to chemistry as the central science because it's kind of connected to lots of fields of science. For example, physics is kind of the underpinning of chemistry, chemistry is the underpinning of biology, and so forth. And there's lots of kind of connections here and there. And chemistry is also a lab science, or what I'd say is an experimental science. So if you're a chemist and you want to know some property, you need to design an experiment to measure that property, make the measurement, and then from the results of those measurements, you need to develop models or theories that explain those results. And that's basically what a chemist does, all related to matter. So what is matter? Matter is anything that occupies space and has mass. Basically, I like to say it's all of the important stuff in the universe. We know matter as it can have a phase of, say, it could be solid, liquid, or gas. These are what we call the phases of matter. It can be a pure substance. It's only one component. That could be an element, or it could be a chemical compound, whatever it may be. It could be a mixture, right? So that's what we are as humans. We're a mixture of lots of components. The mixture can be homogeneous or heterogeneous. We can get into that later on. And if we're transforming matter, like in chemistry, we like to look at transformations of matter. They can be physical. For example, if you're changing from a solid to a liquid or from a gas to a solid and so forth, that's a physical transformation. Or it can be chemical. So maybe if you're changing from a pure substance to a mixture or to a different pure substance, so you make a chemical change. Now let's talk about measurement and units. So if we want to know the properties of matter, we have to measure them, and measurements are what to provide that information. But in order to kind of know the scale of our measurement, so the result of our measurement usually is some kind of quantitative value, we need to use units. So if I just compare, well, my measurement has 4 and your measurement has 2, well, that doesn't mean anything if my measurement was 4 miles and yours was 2 feet. So we have to assign units to any of our measurements. So any kind of measurement without units is just a number, like I said at the beginning. And here are a few properties and the common units you might use. So time, the unit would be seconds, volume, liters, and so forth. And actually, there are actually standard units. So there's a standard SI unit for everything. We're not really going to focus too much on that. We're going to use the appropriate units that show up often on chemical sizes and scales. So if you've got a unit and you want to compare two numbers, I had the example of 4 and 2. Well, sometimes the comparison can be very large differences, and so we often add prefixes to those units. So for example, gram is a measure of mass, but a kilogram is another measure of mass, and a kilogram is 1,000 times that of a gram based on these, let's get the pen, based on these prefixes. So if you see nano, you know it's 10 to the ninth, or basically 8 zeros before the number, whatever the unit may be. So nanometers or micrometers or millimeters or so forth. And so you need to be able to, you need to be able to convert between units based on these prefixes. So you're going to have to basically know these. At the beginning, you might have to look them up. As you go through the semester, you'll start to internalize and understand what they are generally. So if we have a kilogram, like I said earlier, it's a kilo, so that's the multiplier is 1,000. So there are 1,000 grams in a kilogram. Now, if we had 1 millimeter and we wanted to know what that was in micrometers. Okay, so here's a little trickier because we're not using the base unit of grams to kilo. So we have milli and micro, and there are 1,000 micrometers. So 10 to the minus 6 times 1,000 is equal to 10 to the minus 3. So that means if we have 1 millimeter is the same thing as 1,000 micrometers. Let's go to that last one. And here are more on unit conversions. So unit conversions is something we're going to come back to quite a bit, and you need to rely on throughout the course. It's something you should get good at. So anytime you want to convert from unit to unit, you're going to have a conversion factor. So the conversion factor is usually whatever your desired unit divided by the given unit. And if you get the amount of the given unit, you just multiply by it, you get the desired unit. And that seems kind of confusing, so let's do an example. So if we have 2 grams and we want to know how much that is in milligrams, what we'll do is we'll use this conversion factor, which we go through. Remember, milli was 10 to the minus 3 grams, or 1/1000th, so there are 1,000 milligrams per gram. We just multiply by 2 and we end up with 2,000 milligrams. Pretty simple. Oops, sorry. And then we go to the last one. Well, sometimes you might have to convert through a couple of conversion factors. That's all right. We can still put them into our equation and keep track. So if we had 12 hours and we wanted to know how many seconds are in 12 hours, I know that there's 60 minutes in an hour, and I know there are 60 seconds in a minute. If I do these two conversions, if you think about this as an algebra problem, so the hours are canceling, the minutes are canceling, and you end up with seconds, and it's 43,200 seconds, which is a lot, actually. And then the kind of take-home summary from this, what you need to get from this video, is that every measurement has units. A measured value without units is just a number. You need to know those prefixes, the millis, the centis, the kilos, and you should be able to convert between units pretty easily using the prefixes and conversion factors. So until next time.